Hello everybody and welcome to JGod Gaming. Today's video we're going to be focusing on the SVT and giving you the best class setup for this semi-auto rifle. Personally, this is my least favorite semi-automatic weapon just because if I had to choose between this or the M1 Grand, I'm pretty much going to choose the M1 Grand every single time. Based off how the damage profile looks, you definitely want to avoid high caliber on this weapon just because it will never reduce the time to kill in pretty much any situation. Advanced rifling isn't that useful. It will take your 2-shot damage range from 50 meters up to 100 meters if you decide to use that, but everything between 50 meters up to 100 plus meters will be 3 shots to kill without that advanced rifling. Personally, I decided to go with the reflex sight like you're seeing in the gameplay, and for the other 2 attachments I went with extended magazines as well as rapid fire. And normally I don't put rapid fire on most of the semi-auto weapons, but this one actually doesn't have many attachments that help it at all. So whether you're working on that camo grind or you're just looking for a challenge, those are pretty much the only reasons you should be using this weapon, because basically all the other semi-auto weapons are just better. So at this point I'm going to transition on pretty much how to utilize the weapon, because although it's not very good, I still want to give you some tips on how to utilize this weapon so you can get the maximum effectiveness from this class setup. If you are enjoying the video so far, remember to hit that like button. I do have a goal of 300 likes, so if you enjoy any part of the video, remember to hit that like button. Also, if you are brand new to the channel, I typically cover Call of Duty news, in-game updates, best class setups, subscriber breakdowns, as well as plenty of other tip videos on how to improve at Call of Duty. If any of that sounds interesting to you, make sure you hit that subscribe button with notifications on. So we're going to get into a gridiron match on Flak Tower. I am going to go on pretty lengthy streaks, and you're going to see how I utilize the weapon to the maximum effectiveness. Obviously, I do die along the way because it's not a flawless gameplay, but we'll just kind of have to see what I could have done better in those scenarios, if at all there was anything to do better. One thing I did want to point out is because I've played against some of these people on the enemy team a couple times, I already know that they have pretty poor connection, which with a semi-auto weapon, you're pretty much at the mercy of the connection. But we definitely got to keep that in mind as we take some of these shots. My teammate is in the window, so he's kind of blocking my view about what I'm trying to go ahead and take care of. I'm going and looking on this side just because I want to make sure we don't get flanked. I do end up missing a shot there, so for whatever reason I don't get the kill. It did look like I was pretty lined up, but obviously, like I said, with connection, some of these little gunfights will not be as crisp as they would normally look with a better connection. But pretty much I'm just kind of rotating back and forth, looking at kind of what my teammates are doing. It looks like my teammates are pushing pretty aggressively, so I decided to push up because that's typically what you want to do. As you're gaining that map control, you'll be able to better predict where the spawns are going to be, and when you have predictable spawns, it allows you to go off on longer streaks without getting shot in the back. Right here, I'm just positioning out, knowing that they could potentially spawn inside this room that's right next to me, but more than likely they're going to spawn on this left side where this guy's trying to shoot me. Absolute lasers me. I don't know how the heck he shoots me from that distance. Obviously, he was using the STG, so that's a rifle. So with that full auto, he was probably able to just melt me like that. So I could have probably been a little bit more accurate in that scenario. It looked like I stayed out there a little bit too long, but even the insta melting part is probably a little bit due to connection. And also at those ranges, that's where this gun just isn't as good as the M1 Grand. Typically with the M1 Grand, if you put on a grip, the 2-tap will almost make those 2 bullets hit dead center next to each other without much spread. And for whatever reason with this weapon, whether I used the grip or not, the spread was still pretty much the same. There was a little bit of a distance between that first shot and the second shot, which really hurts weapons that are 2-tap, where basically I'm expecting that I should double tap the trigger every single gunfight, and that should put the person down because the bullets will almost hit the exact same spot. Since this gun doesn't have that feature inherently, that's what makes it so much worse than the other guns. A lot of times that follow-up shot, it does bounce and it does kick, and in a way that's not really advantageous to gunfight. So right here, pretty much I'm just positioning and I'm shooting at these ranges that should be kills. If I had the M1 Grand, like I said, these would be kills. A lot of these ones, it looked like I hit that guy's center mass, but the way this gun lines up, it just doesn't always work out that way. I back up here, end up getting killed there. I was already low health. That guy is obviously skipping. The Omega guy always runs with the 1 bar, and at times it's difficult to overcome. And that's one of the reasons I want to include this gameplay, because a lot of times people do come in the comment section every once in a while and they say, what if you don't have good connection? What if you're in a bad connection lobby? There's not really much you can do. I would switch to an automatic weapon. Personally, if I wasn't trying to use this weapon to actually give you guys a breakdown, I wouldn't be using this weapon ever. I would just be using other weapons that are just better. I'd be using the meta guns, and definitely with someone skipping around, you're going to want full auto weapons because half the clip is going to be wasted on air because the model isn't exactly where they're supposed to be. So you just got to keep that in mind and just kind of deal with it. Play a little bit slower because you're going to want to make sure that you get those first shots, because if they're skipping around, a lot of times what will happen is on their screen, they don't realize how much they're skipping, and then what will happen is all of a sudden you get hit with 5 bullets at once and you get insta killed and you're like, what the heck happened? Well, that's just because of connection. Not much you can do about it, not much you can do to counter it, but all you can do is just try your best to be as consistent with the weapon. And you can see I continue to come out over here in this sight line, and as long as they're coming out of spawn, I should have a good opportunity to take them out. I have a feeling the guy's coming up, take them out, and then I relocate with those S-mines covering the back. A lot of times I use S-mines just to cover my back because typically they will get more kills than my actual teammates. I am running with a couple other buddies, YouTuber buddies, so obviously we do have kind of a stacked team. But at the end of the day, connection can actually be one of the hardest things to overcome, and you'll see how it kind of plays out in the match. But overall, you can see that I end up throwing a flashbang on myself. That's a big whoops, right? But overall, with this weapon, you're going to want to make sure that you're pre-aiming a lot of the corners. So as you come around, kind of pre-aiming, making sure that you can land that first shot. And that's where sighting in is crucial for this. So I'm peeking these longer sight lines because pretty much longer sight lines give me an advantage. If I was using an SMG, I'd probably be pushing around that right side, trying to close the gap, coming through mid to pull off some kind of flank. But obviously, since I'm using this type of weapon, I have to adjust my play style. And a lot of times people don't do that. They just play however they want with any weapon, however and whenever. So the weapon should generally determine that play style. So if you're a slower player, if you like playing slower, you're probably going to be using weapons like the Bren and the Lewis to kind of camp up, post up a little bit. If you want to be a little bit more mobile and kind of rotate, probably going to use rifles for the most part. And then if you're going to run and gun, you're probably going to use SMGs. So in my experience with this weapon, the only time it ever felt any good is when you actually get those 2 tap kills consistently, because a lot of times it feels like you got to fire 3 or 4 shots because maybe one's missing, or it's just this has a weird recoil thing where it doesn't actually line up with where the sights are. I'm not 100% sure. You can see it does definitely have that melt potential if you land those 2 shots. But like I said, that's only the time it ever feels any good. So if you did enjoy the video at all, I'm going to go ahead and kind of cut it off there. I think I showed off a little bit of the gameplay. I did kind of show you a little bit of how I would position it with it. I would treat this like the Bren, honestly. That's how it feels, really slow with a small magazine capacity with a little faster reload. Overall, that's how I treat this weapon. I could easily stretch this video out to over 10 minutes, but that's not the goal. The goal is just to give you quality content, and I think this pretty much was the part of the video where pretty much after this, it's going to just kind of be copy and paste from the first half. So hopefully I showed off enough of the weapon so you can kind of get an idea on how to utilize it, but pretty much it's very similar. You just post up in the right areas and play a little bit more campy with it, because it is very weak overall. All the different characteristics combined obviously make it weak. It's 2-shot kill, but nothing special about it. You might as well use the M1 Grand or one of the other weapons that's just better than it. So if you did enjoy the video in any way, remember to hit that like button. Make sure if you're brand new to the channel, you subscribe with those notifications on, and I'll give a special shout out to all my VIP members. If you're not 100% sure what a member is, it's basically a subscriber that's decided to support the channel on a monthly basis. So I'll go ahead and throw their names up on the screen so you guys can go ahead and see that. If you are interested in becoming a member, go ahead and check out the description below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, have a great day.